It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
It is Rico Brogna, episode number 470. The New York Mets almost give us an incredible comeback victory against the Washington Nationals in D.C. and instead blow a game in the ninth inning. We'll break down the game. We'll get to the news items over the last 24 hours, including Brett Beatty being optioned down to AAA and the Mets bringing back an old friend in Brooks Raley. But I want to start by demanding that Pete Hoffman apologize to the audience, because Pete Hoffman said something the other day, and we had a little disagreement here on the Rico about it, and that was about Edwin Diaz. It was about missing Edwin Diaz and how important Edwin Diaz is. Now, Edwin was not available in this game on Friday night against Washington. Mendy didn't tell anybody before the game. Before the game, Mendy said, Edwin's doing great. Edwin's doing fine. Nothing to be concerned about what happened Wednesday afternoon, whether it's his legs not being the same length or the issue with his hip. No harm, no foul. Edwin's okay. When he was not available to pitch the ninth inning on Friday night after the game, Carlos Mendoza said he wasn't available, but that had nothing to do with the hip stuff. That was simply usage. He's been used a lot over the last week, a lot of ups, as Mendy said, so he decided to not make him available. And because he wasn't available, what we saw on Friday night is a world I don't want to live in. It is a world that Hoff described on the last Rico as, yeah, we'll be fine, and that's a world without Edwin Diaz. And so instead of Edwin Diaz coming in to face 7, 8, and 9 of the Washington Nationals batting order with a 4-3 lead, it was Ryan Stanek. And Ryan Stanek has pitched well this season. I don't mean to rip Ryan Stanek or even A.J. Minter, who would eventually come in after Stanek faced the 3-batter minimum. It's that those guys, as well as they've pitched, as well as their ERA is compared to Edwin Diaz, they are not Edwin Diaz. And so as frustrating as Diaz can be, and I get it, he frustrates me, he frustrates everybody, he is still their best reliever. I don't care what the ERA said over the first month of the season. I don't care. I don't care how many times he walks the leadoff hitter. I don't care how many times guys can run on him. There's no way you watch this game on Friday night with Ryan Stanek against the bottom of the freaking order and said, yeah, I prefer this over Edwin Diaz. No shot. So apologize.
You woke me up for this. You woke me up out of a sleep for this right now. I was sleeping, dude. I don't know if I can apologize for Juan Soto misplaying a ball in right field. I don't know if I can apologize for Jeff McNeil, kind of lazily, his first game back, so I can't give him too much crap, but not be able to get to that ground ball up the middle that turns into the game-winning single. Guy's on first base and he scores from first base. That is ridiculous. So you're right. The pitching wasn't perfect, but they put the ball in play. It wasn't like they put the ball in the seats. It wasn't like they walked the ballpark. I understand they're not Edwin Diaz. He handles it better. Maybe he doesn't lose that game, but come on, dude. Don't put it all on the pitching. Defense was brutal.
Look, I will get to all that stuff. You're right. I mean, Jeff McNeil at the bare minimum, and it's interesting because what McNeil couldn't do is something that Luis Garcia was able to do. And we saw that a few innings earlier when he made a great play to knock a ball down and ensure that another run wouldn't score. So, yes, I get it. Jeff McNeil needs to knock that ball down on the James Wood base hit, which turned into be the game-winning hit. The Soto play was a little bit more complicated. First of all, Dylan Cruz hit the ball to the freaking warning track. It was not the easiest play in the world. Juan leapt up, whatever the correct vocabulary is. I know that's one of those plays that I'm sure Yankee fans will have a field day with. Like, look, Juan Soto, he sucks defensively. It's not the easiest play in the world. And the bottom line is Ryan Stanek gave up a ball that was hit to the freaking wall. So I can't put that all on Juan Soto. It's just, and it's not the nail Stanek or AJ Minter. It's that the best Met team features Edwin Diaz coming in to close the game out in the ninth inning. And yeah, there are going to be games Edwin Diaz blows. And maybe this game in game one of this series would have been a game he blew. I don't know. He hasn't blown a game yet this season. And I can promise you, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I can promise you that Edwin Diaz will blow a game or two. And he's had some bad moments in Washington. The Kurt Suzuki moment still jumps out at me. But life without Edwin Diaz, which we saw for only one game, and I guess that's a good thing, assuming he is available to pitch game 2 on Saturday and game 3 on Sunday. Life without Edwin Diaz is not good. It's not ideal. And this is a weird game to kind of compartmentalize because the Mets have won 7 in a row. They come into this game with an 18-7 record, a perfect homestand. It's very difficult, and I felt this way as soon as I sat down and watched it. It was always going to be very difficult to be angry over losing this game. And I can't tell you I'm angry. It just was one of those, I don't know how to feel because you're down 3-0. Your bats, I don't want to say the Met bats were lifeless because they weren't lifeless. There was a lot of hard contact that just didn't go their way. There was a lot of bad luck in this game. And we'll get to the triple play that was called and the craziness around that. But I never felt like going into the 8th inning, this was a lifeless game. It was just a game in which it's not our night. And over the course of 162, there's going to be a lot of nights like that. I mean, most teams aren't going to win 120 games. So I sat there feeling, it sucks. It's one of those nights. Like, what can you do? Jake Irvin has had his good moments against the Mets. We remember that last year on the 4th of July. It sucks. It is what it is. And then that 8th inning rally was so special and so 2024-like that when you get the McNeil base hit to start the inning, you get the Soto base hit behind in the count, you get the Alonso walk, you get the Nimmo infield hit, and that was the play I was referring to. It turned out not to matter because of what happened next, but Luis Garcia made a diving play on a Brandon Nimmo base hit up the middle, and they almost had a chance to throw Juan Soto out. Soto was caught off third, but luckily the throw to the plate bounced. Kirbut Ruiz knocked it down. So it turned into bases loaded, 2 outs, 3-1 Washington. And then you get this incredible Mark Vientos moment where all the bad luck the Mets had turned into incredible luck because Vientos is behind in the count on Kyle Finnegan. He looked overwhelmed by that slider. Specifically, I think it was the second pitch of the at-bat. And he bloops one to right field that Dylan Cruz makes the leaping or diving attempt at, and it turns into a 3-run triple. And as that ball is bouncing past Cruz and everybody's scoring, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, this is where my emotions of, you know what, not your night, it happens, no big deal. This is when I'm jumping out of my chair like, F yeah, here we go. Look at this. You can't beat us. Like that was incredible. I almost wish it didn't happen because that took me feeling, it's a game. It happens, 162, not our night, blah, 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 blah. And it turned it on its head into, wow, this is incredible. It's going to be an 8-game winning streak. Wow, they never lose. They're never out of a game. And I guess you could still hold on to that. This team rallies. This team fights, even on a night like game 1 of this series where you do nothing against Jake Irvin for 7 innings and you're down 3-0, you can still come back and win. And you had some good little moments in that 8th inning rally too that you can build on. Brandon Nimmo, who had the mental mistake early, which we'll get to later, gets the big hit. Yeah, Pete Alonso drawing another big walk. Soto getting a hit behind in the count, ended up having 2 hits in this game. Vientos delivering the 3-run triple, even though it wasn't the hardest contact in the world. And the fact that they fought, the fact that they weren't out of the game. Like, that's all great. But as a fan, it did kind of change the feeling of, it's a loss, it happens, into, damn, we're going to win this game. And Reed Garrett does a great job in the 8th inning. You get the wonderful defensive play by Tyrone Taylor on the base hit by Luis Garcia, throwing him out at second base. It felt going into the 9th inning like this was going to be one of those wins that you have on the chart. And I am keeping that chart again like I did last year on the Rico Brogna, where I keep the great wins and then we'll rank them But you got to write it down or else you forget about them. There's 162 games in this long-ass season, and you write down the bad losses. Believe it or not, and look, this team's only lost 8 games this season, so it's not a huge sample size. This one was a tough loss because when you take that lead and you get that shutdown inning from Reed Garrett and you get the great defense from Tyrone Taylor, and now you're 3 outs away from winning a baseball game that felt like you were dead to rights for, you want to win it. And look, to your point, Hoff, all those little things the Mets did well in coming back in this game. Huascar Brazoban gives up a run, but it could have been worse. He gets a huge strikeout of James Wood, gets the line out where he makes the quick play on Nathaniel Lau. Like little tiny things that you figure isn't really going to lead to a victory, but they started to build up because it kept it at 3-0. It allowed them to rally and score the 4 runs in the 8th inning. Those little things add up to where, wow, you're going to win this game. You're going to find a way to win this game anyway. And then you've got the little things go the other way in the bottom of the 9th inning. If Juan Soto wasn't under the microscope for the money he makes and for the criticisms he faces as a defensive player, I don't think we'd be going nuts about the triple off the bat of Dylan Cruz. It is not an easy play. It is a deep fly ball to right. He leaps up into the air. It goes off his glove. It would have been nice if he made the play. Does it change the trajectory of this game? Of course it does. Of course, all of a sudden, when Tena comes up, the infield isn't in. All of a sudden, there's 1 out and nobody on with a 1-run lead. But once he gives up the triple to Cruz, obviously the Nationals are set up to tie the game. Tena comes through with the base hit. Then you get the really good play by Mark Vientos to get the first out of the inning. You go to A.J. Minter, which is the right move at that point by Mendy. Actually, that was the great play by Vientos when C.J. Abrams hit that ball to third base. And then what really killed in that James Wood at-bat is C.J. Abrams, who is a very dangerous base stealer. We saw him steal a base a few innings earlier. He doesn't take off. And you're ahead of James Wood 0-2. Once it gets to 3-2, you open up avenues on where you can lose the game in a fluky way, which is exactly what happened. Because now you know Abrams is taking off. He didn't take advantage of it by stealing second. And by the way, if he did steal second, there is a possibility that they wouldn't have faced James Wood. That it would have come down to Nathaniel Lau with 2 on and 2 out. So it would have changed how this game ended. But Minter not being able to put him away, obviously not getting him out, but allowing that count to get full creates the opportunity of what we saw. And that's what adds to how much this loss sucked, because there's 2 things that are really frustrating, or 3 things that are frustrating about the way the game ends. You're ahead of Wood 0-2, count goes full, danger zone. McNeil can't knock the ball down, and it goes off his freaking foot, which was bizarre. Like, get on the ground if you're Jeff and knock it down. You're not throwing Wood out. You're not throwing Abrams out because he's obviously running on the play. Just knock the effing ball down and give Minter another crack to just get the 3rd out and get this thing to extra innings, where the Nationals, where are they going? They used Kyle Finnegan. They used their closer. They pulled him after he gave up the triple and got the final out of the 8th inning. So where are they going? They're going to this Rutledge guy out of the bullpen? Like, you're in a great spot to win this game if you can get it to the 10th inning. You're in a great spot because think about who the Mets had coming up. You were going to put Tyrone Taylor on second because of the Manfred rule, and you were going to have Lindor, Soto, and Alonso tie game, runner on second, nobody out against the garbage Nationals bullpen. So such a blown opportunity that even if you just keep the game tied, I feel good about our chances that we win this game. So frustration point 2. First, it's 0-2 Wood. Now it's full count, creates an opportunity of Abrams running. McNeil can't knock it down. And then even after it gets past him, the ball is slowed down enough, and it's all happening in slow motion where Abrams is on his horse, Tyrone Taylor's charging in, and I'm still thinking, can Tyrone do it again? He threw out a base runner 1 inning earlier, Luis Garcia. Can he come out and throw him out at the plate? He's clearly safe. Yeah, you may as well challenge. and a very frustrating way to lose. Emotionally, just emotionally, it would have been better off if they lost 3-0 than having to watch the great comeback and then all the little things that contributed to the loss. Now, let's go back earlier in this game because there were other things that contributed to the loss. And we'll start with Brandon Nimmo's mental mistake, where I think the official score changed it from a double to a single and really a fielder's choice. It's not an error on Brandon Nimmo, but it's the decision that with 2 outs and nobody on a base hit by Dylan Cruz, in which he's stopping at first base, Brandon Nimmo's throwing to third base, which I don't know. Daniel Murphy was in the booth and made the point that, well, you're coming off an off day. Sometimes your just brain isn't there. And you don't expect that from Brandon Nimmo. He's a smart ball player. And as soon as that mistake was made and Dylan Cruz ends up on second, as opposed to being on first with 2 outs, I did have this feeling this is going to come back and kill him. And the very next pitch is when Tenya hit that little blooper that fell in for a base hit. And so the mental mistake of Brandon Nimmo takes a 0-0 game and it makes it 1-0. Then you've got the triple play. And we'll get to Sangan a little bit too. The triple play is just, it can't be saved by replay. Sometimes you can't save yourself from inept umpiring. There's nothing you can do. And so if you didn't see this play, I'll try to describe it very well. 2 on, nobody out in the fourth. Mets are set up with a rally, down 2-0. Nimmo gets aboard with a base hit. Vientos gets an infield hit. You got first and second, nobody out, and Winker hits a line drive towards first base. It is clearly short-hopped by Nathaniel Lau. Now, the odds are he could turn a double play. Jesse Winker isn't the fastest guy in the world. No guarantee you execute it. But Lothos to second. He comes back to first. Okay, 3-6-3 double play. Runner on third, 2 outs. We'll see what happens. Or maybe you don't turn a double play. Who the hell knows? But the first base umpire, Alfonso Marquez, says he caught it. He clearly didn't catch it, but he says he caught it. Now you've got mass confusion because everybody knows it wasn't caught. So what are the base runners supposed to do when they know, what? It was caught? And so it leads to this 3-6-3 triple play in which Winker's out on the line out that wasn't. You throw to second base, which immediately gets Nimmo out. And now Vientos has to get back to first base, but he's not getting back to first base because he doesn't know what the hell's going on. And they throw back to first base. And as this is happening, I knew there's no way to fix this. Like, Mendy can scream as much as he wanted, and he did, and we could all bitch about it. But what could you do? Like, if the home plate umpire Ramos goes over to Marquez and says, hey, I got to tell you, Alfonso, that ball was on the ground. It wasn't caught on the line. Where are you putting the base runners? First of all, are you assuming a double play, which you can't do? And if you don't assume a double play, you're screwing the Nationals because it could have been a double play. Like, it's one of those scenarios where we talk about replay, and remember the home run that was hit, the home run, non-home run. And what I said at the time on that call was just call it on the field because it's easier to go the other way and change it to a home run. But in a case like this, you just have to get it right. There's no answer. It's easier to call it this way, and it's also not a reviewable play. And I know that annoys some people, but let's say it was reviewable. What are you going to do? So it's one of those circumstances where it sucked. It short-circuited a rally. Mendy has every right to be pissed. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this is just bad umpiring. There's nothing you can do about it. Nothing can save us from this. Replay helps us eliminate bad calls. And it works. And it's why I like replay despite some of my issues with it. But on a play like this, you can't save Alfonso Marquez. He done effed up. And it turned into this weird, wild, odd triple play. And my only message is be better. Now let me get to Juan Soto. Juan Soto had a relatively productive day at the plate. He went 2 for 4. He reached on that error in the first inning, but he ended up with 2 hits in this game, including a base hit in the 8th inning, a big base hit in the 8th inning that really led to that rally. That rally doesn't happen if Soto isn't coming through with a base hit up the middle behind in the count 1-2. But I am a man of my word, and it makes me sick when I see Juan Soto attempt a bunt. And he did it again. Remember, he attempted a bunt, what was it, a week and a half ago, and it went foul. So no harm, no foul. And it drove me absolutely nuts, no pun intended. It was the 6th inning, down 2-0. You got a base hit in this game already, and he's laying down a bunt. And for anyone who argued with me and said, well, it's a smart baseball play, look where the third baseman is, you still have to get it down. He didn't. He bunted it right in front of the plate. Keibert Ruiz got up. He threw him out by 5 steps. Good night. It is not a good baseball play. It's not a good baseball play when even a struggling Soto still has a 40% chance of getting on base because he could walk. He also has a chance of ripping a double up the alley. And again, down 2-0. I don't need all of those runs back. I'd like one of them. And by doubling, you have a better chance than getting on with a bunt hit. And again, you still have to execute the bunt, which he didn't do. He's too good of a hitter for this stuff. Now, for anyone asking, oh, okay, what about Lindor? It's different. It's different on a few levels. It's different because Lindor is the leadoff hitter. It's different because Lindor has the capabilities of stealing second. So when I talk about Soto and, hey, I've got the possibility of an extra base hit, I have a chance with Lindor because if he gets it down, which he also tried to do in this game, he could also steal second base. He's also the leadoff hitter. He's also not Juan Soto. He's a hell of a player. I love Lindor. He's not Juan Soto. So I have less of an issue with Lindor doing it than what I do with Soto doing it. But he did go 2 for 4. And when you look at the production from the offense in this game, Francisco Lindor coming off back-to-back Rico, You the Man Now series star of the series awards. He took an 0 for 4. Pete drew 2 walks. So he went 0 for 2, but he drew 2 walks, including a big one in the 8th inning. Jesse Winker took an 0 for 4. Alvarez had 1 hit in his return. McNeil had 1 hit in his return. It just wasn't a lot of offense. Vientos had the 2 hits, including the 3-run triple. Nimmo had a good day at the plate. As much as we'll get on him for the defensive or the defensive brain miscue that he had that cost him a run, he did have some good at-bats. He had 2 hits in this game, including a ripped line drive where Dylan Cruz had to make the leaping catch. For the most part, the offense did nothing outside of the rally in the 8th inning. As far as Senga's concerned, you got to love what you're seeing from this guy. Even in a performance in which he wasn't getting a lot of swing and misses early, his fastball wasn't electric, Kodai Senga finds a way. He got into that groove between the 3rd and 6th inning in which he retired 11 in a row. He lost the strike zone a little bit in the 6th inning, but was able to get a big strike out of Josh Bell to get through the 6th. And he ends up giving us, as Met fans, 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts, a real sturdy, solid performance by Kodai Senga. But they lose. So this is on my chart now as one of the bad losses of the season. I'm keeping you posted. And once we get to the All-Star break, I guess we'll rank them. Now, as far as the other news and notes, let me get to Brett Baty. I mentioned this on the last Rico. If you're a loyal Rico subscriber, thank you. You know my opinion. If you didn't hear it, I'll say it again. I would have kept Brett Baty on the roster. I would have kept Brett Baty on the roster for a few reasons. Number one, I think there are ways to get him at-bats. It won't be the consistent at-bats he's gotten to start the season, but I think between McNeil not playing every day, between Nimmo probably getting a day off here and there, Vientos getting a day off here and there, Jesse Winker not having to play against every right-handed starting pitcher you face, I think there were creative ways to get Baty in the lineup. I'm not going to tell you it would have been as much or as often as it was to start the year, but I also think we've graduated with Brett Baty. Like, he's not a prospect anymore. So Mendy's reasoning because David Stearns hasn't met the media about this yet. He will. I mean, he talks a lot. So we'll hear from David relatively soon. But Mendy's point on why they sent him down was consistent at-bats. That was his reasoning. Okay. But does Brett Beatty need isn't it about what's the best roster for you? Like, this guy's gotten so many opportunities at the major league level. There's nothing he could prove at AAA. I don't look at him as a prospect that needs consistent at-bats. I'm looking at the 26 saying, hey, what gives this team a better chance to win? And so what I'm concerned about, even though Mendy didn't admit this, is that they really don't want to play anybody in center field besides Tyrone Taylor. And Jose Azocar, who is still on the roster, he's the guy I would have sent down. And by the way, he wouldn't have been sent down. He would have been DFA'd. And I get that. I don't think that honestly, who cares? There's a chance that no one picks him up. There's a chance he gets outrighted anyway and ends up in AAA. I wouldn't go nuts if they lost Jose Azocar, to be quite frank with you. But it scares me, and maybe scare is not the right word to describe this. It concerns me that the real reason they did this was not we need Brett Beatty to get consistent at-bats, but more they don't trust Luisangel Acuna in center, which I'd like to see. And they obviously don't trust Brandon Nimmo or Jeff McNeil in center. And so they don't want just Tyrone Taylor to be on the roster as the one center fielder they trust. I just disagree with them. I do. I disagree in that I value Beatty's bat potentially off the bench or in those creative scenarios where he can play more so than just having another center fielder in Jose Azocar, who I wouldn't play that much of anyway. So I disagree with the Beatty decision. As far as when can he come back? Look, he comes back, I guess, if somebody gets hurt. If McNeil goes back on the IL, if Nimmo gets hurt, if Vientos gets hurt, if, God forbid, Pete gets hurt. Obviously, an injury occurs down in the minors. You can creatively find ways for Brett Beatty's bat to be one of the guys that replaces that injured player. I'm just disappointed because I think the best 26 for the Mets would have included Beatty on this roster, and I am intrigued with seeing Acuna play center field, and I don't have a lot of confidence that we're going to see Luisangel Acuna play a lot of center field.
If they didn't send Beatty down, do you think that Jeff McNeil would have been replaced by Acuna for defensive purposes in that ninth inning?
Well, why couldn't he have been replaced by Acuna defensively anyway? Why would that make any difference? I mean, if that's a first guess on Carlos Mendoza, like, hey, Jeff McNeil just came back from the IL, ninth inning with a lead. Why aren't you going to Acuna? It's a fair question, but I don't think that's impacted by if Beatty's on the roster or not. But by the way, it's a fair critique. It's a fair question. Do you value Acuna's defense above McNeil enough for Jeff to be taken out for Acuna for defense?
I mean, I certainly do. I thought about it. I didn't. Again, I give Jeff McNeil a pass. It's his first game back, whatever. So maybe he had some, the yips or whatever the case. But I just think that if Beatty is there, maybe they have more bench to work with as far as that goes.
I don't think it would have made any difference. I think it's a separate question, but it's a fair one. McNeil did make that good sliding defensive play in the sixth inning on the ground ball. So, like, his defense was fine. I don't know. I almost want to see more of Jeff McNeil and Luisangel Acuna continue to defend at second base and then say, yeah, this is a major upgrade. They should actually take McNeil out for defense. But my only counter to you is whether Beatty is there or not, whether it's Beatty or Azocar, I don't think that makes a difference in terms of Mendy feeling comfortable taking McNeil out for defense, or at least it shouldn't. Why would it matter? Why would Beatty or Azocar being on the roster impact an Acuna-McNeil decision?
Well, I guess you're thinking about, if this goes deeper into extra innings and for some reason they have to, is Acuna going to get an at-bat, McNeil, or, hey, we got Beatty there. So if we take out McNeil and we need that left-handed bat, we don't have to stick with Acuna. We can go to Beatty.
I would assume it wouldn't have made it any difference, in my opinion. I don't think it would have changed anything. The other move that was made is Brooks Raley is back. How about that? Brooks Raley brought back. I saw recently how Brooks was doing a program where he was throwing and teams were going to go over and watch him. And I even thought, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we bring Brooks Raley back? Brooks Raley back would be fine. He's been a good lefty when he was here. He was pitching well before he got hurt. He obviously needed Tommy John surgery, and assuming he liked being here and liked the pitching lab, I'd take him back. Right now, the Mets have two lefties in their bullpen. One is long for the world in A.J. Minter. The other one is kind of living on borrowed time in Danny Young. Danny Young is here, and maybe he will survive the season. But remember, Danny doesn't have any options left. So the Mets could very well just send him down, but they can't send him down. He would actually be DFA'd. He'd be gone. You know, you don't want to just give a player away. A lot can happen between now and when Raley is back. According to Brooks Raley's agent, they think, and we'll see what the Mets think, that he could be back and pitch in rehab games by June. So I think if we're going to be conservative, Brooks Raley is a trade deadline acquisition. I know we hate that, but he's a trade deadline acquisition. So I love it. It's good to have him back. Hopefully this recovery continues to go well, and he could be another weapon out of this bullpen. You never have enough arms out of the bullpen. And I keep checking out Dednell Nunez. He's not pitching well in AAA. David Stearns was asked about him recently and said, yeah, he's working his way back, and now it's about need. And so, yeah, if a guy gets hurt or two guys get hurt, if Edwin Diaz went on the IL, and luckily it sounds like he's okay, Nunez would be one of the guys to come up. But right now he's not pitching well down at AAA. So good signing by Brooks Raley. Let me get to some of your emails. Always good to check in with the people at the ricob@gmail.com. Let's do some of the umpire triple play emails, because that one was fascinating. Delvis Seta from Santa Cruz, California writes, Evan, the only triple play is, as Cohen stated, a replay not being reviewable. And I add judges denied homer, the Nats trapped infield ball being a Mets triple play out, and MLB's arrogant audacity is not being able to see the technological writing on the wall. Wake up. It's the 21st century. I know I'm not the only one who's angry enough to shut the game off. Are the umpires covering their bets? He's obviously referring to the Judge denied home run. Remember, Aaron Judge, for those who saw it, hit a ball over the trees down in Tampa. It looked like a home run. They called it foul. They reviewed it. They kept it foul. It made no sense. Any ball, because they do this with even like fair balls, any ball that's before the outfield grass is not a reviewable play. But Delvis, walk me through this. If this was a reviewable play and they saw that the ball was trapped, what's the outcome? What does it turn into? Now, Mark Arley starts his email by saying, I don't want to insult you too much. And then I guess he's going to insult me about this umpire call. So I'll take the insults without insulting you too much for your lack of understanding umpire discretion. If the play happens and the first baseman immediately throws the ball to second, getting Vientos, it's completely plausible and allowed by rule for the umpires to say Vientos is out at second and Winker is safe at first, and Nimmo is safe at third. The umpires can also determine that if they don't throw to second and first baseman runs at first knowing he trapped it, that Winker is out at first. And, okay, lots of words here. Without going back and looking at the replay, I think it's safe to say that throw to second beat Vientos and the throw back to first did not beat Winker. Clearly, the call should have been first and third, one out, fielder's choice. That's what discretion is, especially if there really isn't any interpretation on the play and they do things as they normally would, like the throw to second thinking it's a ground ball. If Winker stops and gets thrown out, that's on him. Umpires do indeed make a mess out of things, but there is an answer here. You say there isn't an answer. There is. Matt, I don't think you fully understand what I'm saying here. Obviously, yes. If the home plate umpire goes to Alfonso Marquez and says, look, you screwed it up, the ball is trapped, obviously the result is discretion. I'm saying whatever their discretion is not fair because they effed the whole thing up. So your idea, which I'm not even disagreeing with, is, hey, let's go first and third, one out. That's our discretion, is completely unfair to the Washington Nationals. Assuming a double play is unfair to the New York Mets. So, yeah, they could have tried to fix it by using discretion. But what I'm telling you is they effed it up. Whether they go first and third, one out, whether they go runner on third, 2 outs and assume the double play, or whether they keep the triple play like they did, no matter how you cut it, it still ended with the umpires completely butchering a play. And really, you say discretion, and you're right, it is discretion. I call it making it up because you have no idea what would have happened. So it's just one of those messes that is, it's only good if they get it right. Once they screw it up, any scenario you pick, assume double play, go first and third, 1 out, just keep the triple play. It all sucks. It's all bad. Discretion or not, it's not good. Anyhow, let's go to Dean LaBrocca, who writes, Evan, I started listening early last season. I've been enjoying getting your reactions after series and games. Thank you. I'm normally a very positive fan, so I just want to stress that I don't want my first ever email to seem too negative. But there is something I felt I had to say about this game. I fully believe that Luis Angel Acuna would have kept that game-winning hit in the infield, preventing the run from scoring. Possibly even Brett Beatty, but certainly Acuna. I like Jeff McNeil. When he struggled the first half of the year, I was thrilled to see him come around in the back half, and I realized that he is just coming back from an injury. But I feel like when the game is on the line and the ball was hit the way it was, it felt bad not to see him at least lay out for it. Even if he missed it, it's the game-winning hit, get dirty. Earlier in the game, there were actually several other hard-hit grounders just out of the reach of McNeil that he did not lay out for. They were all base hits out of his reach, so don't blame him for not reaching them, but all game, I couldn't help but think, what if Acuna was out there? Jeff is typically a solid defensive second baseman and will no doubt continue to be, but this game put a surprising amount of pressure on that. I'm not too upset at the loss once the triple play happened. I figured this just wasn't our game. But the shutout to 8th inning 4-run comeback felt so 2024 that I was hoping we could pull it off. Thanks for letting me rant, Dean. So it's not exactly what you said, Hoff, about using Acuna as a defensive replacement, but similar in that here is a guy watching the game, Jeff McNeil's return, and basically thinking the whole time, boy, I wish Luis Angel Acuna was out there. And I would tell you this. I think there's an avenue, and it's not going to happen right away because McNeil just came back and went 1 for 4 in his return. But there is an avenue where Acuna takes the job from him. I really believe that. And I remember we talked in spring training about this when he first went down, like what happens when McNeil comes back. And we talked, well, if Beatty plays well, if Acuna plays well, there's certainly a way that McNeil won't be guaranteed every day at bats. And I do think that exists. Now, I'm not going to sit here rooting against Jeff McNeil. None of us are. But I think if Acuna clearly proves he is the better option at second base, I think by June 1st, we could be looking at him as the everyday second baseman.
Right. And McNeil gives you the opportunity now, too, to put hit. Like we were talking about, Acuna could potentially go to center field. But why would you want to take Taylor out of center field? Because defensively, he's probably the most sound. He is the most sound center fielder on the team. But maybe McNeil you put to left field and sit Nimmo down. I mean, there's a lot of options out there because right now, no matter what anybody says, no matter how good Taylor is, the defense in the outfield is not above grade. It's par at best. Let's put it that way.
Charlie writes, Evan, do you ever emotionally score a game? Instead of putting down the 3-3-6 triple play, why not put down BS? MLB should be ashamed how that is a catch and it's not reviewable. Still not an excuse for the offense to be dead. No, I got to follow the rules, man. As much as I was annoyed by it, I did not write BS. I wrote TP. And yes, it was a 3-6-3 double play. And then later in the game, Gary says, oh, the official score changed it. It actually is just a 3-6 triple play or a 3-3-6 triple play. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. So I overruled the official score because I watched it and I saw that they had to throw back to first base to complete the triple play. Also, a lot of emails basically mad at Hoff about the Edwin Diaz situation, saying, see, Hoff, we need Edwin Diaz. So don't worry, guys. We covered that at the very top of the Rico Brogna. Me reminding Hoff, yes, the New York Mets need Edwin Diaz.
All right. So just real quickly, just one more time here. You're telling me, I understand it's one game. It's one poor example. We talked about the defense. We talked about a lot of stuff. You say that Edwin Diaz being back there, that inning would have gone smooth? You think that they would have won that game?
He hasn't blown a save yet this season. So, yeah, the track record says bottom of the order. He probably would have gotten the 3 outs. He's pitched well lately. Why would I not think he would have saved the game?
Well, he's got legs are two different sizes right now. I have no idea what's going on with him.
Well, so you're concerned. You're saying that once he gets back from this, he may not be the same pitcher? All right, so now you're just grasping for straws. That's all you're doing. Well, he should be available for Saturday's game. Clay Holmes on the mound against the right-hander Brad Lord, who's making the start on Saturday. And then on Sunday, Tyler McGill against the lefty, Mitchell Parker. And then it'll be Griffin Canning on Monday afternoon against Trevor Williams. It's a weird 4-game series. Usually we do our Ricos. We have an instant reaction like the one we're doing now and the latest Met news around Brett Beatty and Brooks Raley. But Sunday's a traditional Rico because that's when series end. This series will actually expand into a Monday. So we can guarantee you there'll be a Rico on Monday. We'll see about this weekend. We'll see where the Mets bring us. We'll see where my life brings us. But yes, after every series, you can always know that in your little inbox where you download podcasts, there will be a Rico Brogna. We do appreciate you listening, downloading, and subscribing. Any comments, anger, or happy, you can email us, thericob@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening to episode 470 of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.